Instant messaging service WhatsApp has recently updated its privacy policy, which will allow Facebook to have access to its data. This recent policy update has some users up in arms and many confused. To leave WhatsApp or not to leave? That's the question on everyone's lips. So, we spoke to tech expert Arthur Goldstuck to find out if we should really be concerned over WhatsApp's new policy and if the alternatives are any better.
WhatsApp users have been told that they have to accept new terms and conditions if they want to carry on using the app beyond the 8th of February. Now, it's fairly normal for companies to update terms and conditions of applications, apps, services, and even websites. We get that every single day. But the difference is that this has been positioned as a kind of ultimatum to users, so that persuades people to look more deeply into it. Also, there's been a lot of noise around the extent of permissions that you have to give. So the combination of those two has created a lot of fear. And some of that fear is justified, but some is overblown. Justifiably, people are concerned about the extent of information that can now be collected from you via WhatsApp. But it's not the information itself that's so significant. It's the fact that that information can be combined with the information that Facebook is collecting about you. So on WhatsApp, for example, already obviously WhatsApp has to know what your contact number is, and issues like even signal strength, which sounds like an arbitrary element to measure, must have been measured all along. Now that is part of the new measurements or the new data that's being collected. But included in that is issues or areas like your time zone, your mobile operator, your internet service provider, your battery level on your phone even. So a range of arbitrary information, but when put together starts giving a picture of your habits, your behavior and the like. Now that again in itself is not as serious as it might seem, but now you combine that with your behavior and your activities on Facebook, and suddenly you start getting a detailed, in-depth picture of a person's profile, even their personality. You can tell a lot about someone's personality by the extent to which they allow their phone, for example, to die down, or for the battery to die, or how much time they spend on their phone, for example. So all of that information is potentially going to be aggregated and analyzed and packaged in order for advertisers to be able to target people better. Facebook has made a comment that it's about business use of WhatsApp, but how do we know when we are engaging with a business and when we're not, for example? It's all become one long continuum of usage. People aren't distinguishing between their different kinds of usage. So we most of the time don't really know what information is being accessed and how it's being used. And that's the real issue, is how that information will be used.
Should people really be concerned over this privacy policy? And will Facebook be able to access our WhatsApp messages?
The content of your messages is not something to be concerned about unless you're involved in criminal activity, and law enforcement requires the owners of these apps to divulge content of messages. So it is possible for the content to be accessed, but only in extreme circumstances. Broadly speaking, the content of any WhatsApp message is encrypted and cannot be read by anybody else, especially not by Facebook simply to target advertising. So no one is going to be reading your messages. That is an overblown fear. But we do have a right to be concerned about the extent of information that is now being put together in order for advertisers to target us. And bear in mind that advertisers targeting us on whether it's Google or Facebook is not only about selling products, but it's also about pushing political messages. And this is part of the scandal around Facebook in the Cambridge Analytica debacle, where information was collected that was not supposed to be collected and then used to target people in ways that they were not supposed to be targeted. All that not supposed to be is really what Facebook says ideally is the situation. But in practice, people are able to exploit loopholes and also exploit the information that Facebook makes available to advertisers to be able to manipulate not just their buying habits, but also their thinking and voting habits.
The alternatives. Are Signal and Telegram better?
Signal and Telegram are definitely a lot safer than WhatsApp in terms of the information they collect and even in terms of security. Signal in particular is in fact designed to get around many of the privacy issues that WhatsApp and Facebook are allowing. Signal was developed in part by one of the original developers of WhatsApp, and the intention there was to avoid the privacy debacle that WhatsApp allows. So it certainly is safer. It's not to say it's completely safe. The one huge benefit of Signal is that it doesn't automatically access your contacts list, which all the other messaging apps, aside from Telegram, also do. And I should add, the most popular messaging apps all do these things. There are various instant messaging apps that try to avoid the privacy issues and also the security issues. So Telegram is the best known, followed by Signal. But then there's also Wickr.me, W-I-C-K-R.me, which essentially is geared towards ensuring both privacy and security, but primarily because you're paying for the privilege. So the reason all of the other apps, in particular those owned by Google and Facebook, are so intrusive is because they're providing it to you for free as a quid pro quo, where they can then provide your user information, your profile, to advertisers, and that's how they will make their money. So when you're paying for an app, suddenly the advertising issue goes away. So you get it for free, they want something back. You pay for it, that secures you. But with Signal in particular, there's an intention to help prevent what I call the privacy apocalypse that's facing us.
To stay or to go, in your opinion, what should people do?
There's a couple of issues here. If all of your contacts are on WhatsApp, and by leaving WhatsApp, you lose touch with all of your contacts, then it doesn't really make sense. Only if you're able to persuade everyone you know that they should also go over to Signal or Telegram, will it make sense for you to ditch WhatsApp completely. However, what you can do is try to start using it less, bring in Telegram, bring in Signal, see which of your contacts are using those, and as far as you can, move your communication over to those apps. So the idea would be that you start reducing your reliance on WhatsApp, and that also encourages other people to reduce their reliance on WhatsApp. But what it also does is it means that less and less of your behavior can be aggregated by Facebook in terms of who you talk to, when you talk, and the condition of your phone for that matter.
With the privacy apocalypse that we are appearing to face, how can we protect our information?
Your privacy is being exposed on almost every website that you use. So one of the things that you can do is use something called incognito mode on a browser. So most browsers have this mode where when you select incognito mode, that's basically right-clicking on the icon and choosing incognito mode, it means that no cookies are being planted on your browser. Cookies are little pieces of information that tell advertisers what you've been doing and where you've been going and allow them to target you. Also, constantly clear the cookies on your browser, and I'm talking about on your phone as well as on your computer. That is probably the best thing you can do. And then try to start moving your communication to the more secure browsers, to Signal in particular, and to Telegram. By browsers, I mean instant messaging applications. Use the more secure instant messaging applications like Signal and Telegram, which you can also use on your desktop, same as with WhatsApp. And Signal in particular, because of it being developed by one of the founders of WhatsApp, is likely to keep pace with the changing demands of the users.